Sparks in the Starlight. The Celestial Ball was the most anticipated event in the floating city of Aether. As the last rays of sunlight faded, the luminous crystals lining the grand ballroom came to life, bathing everything in a soft, ethereal glow. Aria adjusted her shimmering gown, a cascade of midnight blue fabric that seemed to capture starlight itself. She took a deep breath, steeling herself for yet another evening of tedious small talk and political maneuvering. As the daughter of Aether's High Chancellor, Aria was expected to mingle with potential suitors and forge alliances. But her heart yearned for something more, a connection that transcended the superficial glitter of high society. She made her way through the crowd, nodding politely at familiar faces, when suddenly the world around her seemed to slow. Across the room, a man she had never seen before caught her eye. He stood tall and proud, his sharp features softened by a mane of silver hair that seemed to defy gravity. But it was his eyes that captivated her, pools of liquid mercury that shimmered with an intensity that made her breath catch. As if drawn by an invisible force, Aria found herself moving towards him. The stranger's gaze locked onto hers, and a jolt of electricity coursed through her body. When they finally stood face to face, the rest of the ballroom faded away. "I'm Zephyr," he said, his voice a low, melodious rumble that sent shivers down her spine. "Aria," she replied, surprised at how breathless she sounded. Without another word, Zephyr held out his hand. Aria took it, and the moment their skin touched, a surge of warmth spread through her entire being. He led her to the dance floor, and as they began to move together, Aria felt as if she were floating among the stars. Their bodies moved in perfect synchronicity, as if they had danced together for 1,000 lifetimes. Zephyr's hand on the small of her back burned through the fabric of her gown, igniting a fire deep within her. The scent of him, a heady mixture of sandalwood and ozone, filled her senses. As they twirled and swayed, Aria found herself drawing closer until she could feel the solid warmth of his chest against hers. Her heart raced, and she could swear she felt his beating just as frantically. "I've waited an eternity for you," Zephyr whispered, his lips brushing against her ear. Aria pulled back just enough to meet his gaze. "How is this possible?" she asked, her voice barely audible over the music. "I've only just met you, and yet you feel as if you've known me forever," he finished, a smile playing at the corners of his mouth. She nodded, unable to find the words to express the overwhelming emotions coursing through her. Zephyr's hand came up to cup her cheek, his thumb tracing the line of her jaw. "Some souls are destined to find each other, Aria. Across time, across worlds." The intensity in his eyes made her knees weak. Without conscious thought, Aria found herself rising on her toes, drawn to him like a moth to flame. Zephyr leaned in, and when their lips finally met, the world exploded into a kaleidoscope of sensation. The kiss was both tender and passionate, a perfect balance of restraint and unbridled desire. Aria's hands found their way into Zephyr's hair, marveling at its silken texture. His arms tightened around her waist, pulling her flush against him, as if he could never be close enough. When they finally parted, both breathing heavily, Aria realized that the music had stopped. The other guests were staring, some with shock, others with barely concealed envy. But for once in her life, Aria didn't care about propriety or expectations. "Come with me," she said, taking Zephyr's hand and leading him towards one of the secluded balconies. Under the canopy of stars, they talked for hours, sharing their deepest dreams and fears. With each word, each caress, each smoldering look, Aria felt the connection between them grow stronger. It was as if a piece of her soul that had always been missing had finally clicked into place. As the first light of dawn painted the sky in hues of pink and gold, Zephyr pulled Aria close once more. "This is just the beginning," he murmured against her lips. Aria smiled, her heart full to bursting. "Of forever," she finished, sealing the promise with a kiss that held all the passion and potential of their newfound love. In that moment, surrounded by the fading stars and the promise of a new day, Aria knew that her life had irrevocably changed. Whatever challenges lay ahead, whatever obstacles they might face, she and Zephyr would face them together. Two souls intertwined, destined for an intimacy that transcended the physical and touched the very essence of their beings.